brands, and he's one of our authors in Cracking the Rich Code. His chapter you can find in volume 6. And he's such a value contributor to our mastermind. And I'm really happy to kick off this podcast with him. This is my first time doing it, and nobody better to co-host and, autopilot than Rich. Welcome, Rich, to the podcast.
Pete, thank you for doing this. Cracking a Rich Code is such a blessing to so many people, and it's growing. I'm glad that I get to be one of the first to talk about its value. It's really quite cool. So thank you for inviting me.
Well, this is going to be awesome because realistically, you are one of the, early adopters of Cracking the Rich Code, and you've been, connected with Jim Britt from the kind of the beginning when Jim, had the inception for this book. And, being in volume 6, we're currently at volume 13. That's coming out shortly. So what really, when I kind of wanted to go before we go into any of the conversation, first tell the audience who you are, what you do, and what brought you into the Cracking the Rich Code community.
Okay, well, as briefly as I can, for 47 years, I have been defining and languaging brands. Most of that time was big companies. I had partners in 21 countries. I worked for a big agency. We moved brands from country to country. I was certified in a process that started with research to capture the meaning of the brand, where it was created, but we had to transfer it from country to country. So it was a marvelous opportunity, and I was addicted to my job, I'll have to say. And at 50, I resigned that career and said I don't do branding anymore. And then, long story short, individuals started asking me, and I started helping them. And I realized there is a huge opportunity for solopreneurs to individuals who own their own companies, and they have lots of employees, and they know they're not done. They want to take it higher levels. So today at Rich Brands, we are evolving individuals' brands with a lot of clarity, which is the missing piece for most people. Longevity, so they can be doing enjoy for more decades what they're doing. And divine purpose, so that not only do they use branding done the right way to build a platform for their business, but that platform enables them to more easily step into why they're really here. So that doesn't make me your run-of-the-mill branding guy, but it's who I am and what I do, the Rich Code Club. So I heard Jim Britt. I've always admired him and Jim Rowan when they were partners for the work that they've been doing, and I got the opportunity to be a part of episode 6, and took it. My name is Rich, so it was a little bit interesting to be on the cover of Cracking the Rich Code when your name is Rich. So it's like that was a little bit of it, but the ability to put a chapter that reaches out to entrepreneurs, to people who have a business or their work or their calling sometimes, and they want to take it to another level and say, hey, there are steps, a process. Like, people don't think about branding as a process. And my chapter is, look, there are 7 steps to ensure that your brand impacts people's lives and the world. Just know that. It was the first seed planting of those 7 steps. And it is a process. It is just a process. People don't think about branding as a process. They think about however they think about it. So that was my purpose for being in the Rich Code. And I brought 2 clients with me on that first book too. So I had 2 other powerful female clients, one from Africa and one from, Orange County, who have world-changing, masterful purposes, and they were in there too. So that brought me in, but once I was there, then the real value started happening. We can talk about that as well. Anyway, but that's...
Yeah, I want to kind of say, when you first came in, with these collaborations and these, anthologies, again, it started off volume 6. What were your thoughts as you were coming into it? What were you trying to accomplish with, your chapter, your piece of this messaging?
Well, the concept of having your picture on the cover of a book that says it's endorsed by Tony Robbins and it's with Jim Britt and at that time with Kevin Tarrington, um, it adds credibility and authority, and that's the purpose of being in a compilation book. So, and yeah, and I think I called it episode 6 and version 6. Okay, but so that's the first thing is making sure that the contribution, and I'll use my language, is a stake in the ground that moves my brand forward in a strategic direction that it needs to go for me to make my impacts. And it fit that. So that was the purpose of it. Some of the things that have evolved since then in the hands of and the vision of Jim Britt weren't completely shaped then. Several of us kind of started, we thought we were helping to shape them, how the authors connect, how it might create a community. It was nascent then. It was just kind of being born. Jim has evolved it, and it is a marvelous community today. And I welcome anyone who has a meaningful contribution to others' lives as entrepreneurs or to the world they touch to consider being in a Cracking the Rich Code volume and joining this community. It is powerful.
Yeah, and that's something that always intrigued me, and what got me to join was that concept of you're not doing a collaboration just to put your name in a book and then have a book, right? Your stake in the ground, like you said.
Yeah.
It was also about building community. And what I noticed is the concept of cracking the rich code. We oftentimes associate it with business, but I think a lot of these contributions and a lot of the contributors span so much farther afield than just business.
Absolutely.
What are some of your thoughts on the people you've kind of interacted with and how that's changed your perception of your contribution as it's evolved over time?
Wow, that's a powerful question. Thanks for asking it. The initial thought of contribution was the chapter I put in the book. The contribution since then has evolved. The opportunity for contribution, not just to Cracking the Rich Code, but back to me, has evolved as this community has evolved. So like many things, you said, just about business. I'm not that guy where if somebody says, I've got this thing, it's going to make $1 million. I'm the guy that would say like, okay, fast forward, magic wand, you made $1 million. Now what? And they go, what do you mean made $1 million? Not my client. Okay. I don't live there. And I'd have to say, anymore, because big company branding is about market share, penetration, strategic, evolution, sometimes acquisition, so forth. So it's like huge. And I've been involved in all that. I just don't do that anymore. I do individuals. So the evolution of the contribution looks like this. Like anything, it's not just business, not just numbers, or it's not just a numbers game. It's contribution and it's connectedness, and it's you get what you give. And so when you focus on others and sharing, your years of experience or the experiences you've been through or the things you've found to work or not work with others, and that's what masterminding is. And one of the evolutions of the contribution, not only us to the Rich Code Club, but the Rich Code Club back to us, is this marvelous mastermind that Jim Britt has evolved, where we get a chance to meet each other, break out, talk about what's going on, share successes and wins and ideas and thoughts, and literally build a community of people we actually get to know. Sometimes clients occur, people start working with each other, but the variety of the businesses, if you will, of the expertises. I mean, I kind of do this every day, but let me just do, it's everything from high-level CEO business coaches, multicultural transformation people for large companies, customized coaching for individual solopreneur businesses, um, wearable healing art. Like
Yeah.
what?
I
Um,
know that's pretty
yeah,
incredible, right?
yeah. And, software that facilitates automation in businesses. It's like uh, uh, diversity, equity, inclusion across large organizations, and what it means and how it's evolving. Um, money, truth, and what the world doesn't teach us. Um, there are so many types of individuals with such a, no pun intended, richness of diversity in the among the authors. It has developed into, and we make it a high value community. And so the word contribution and what we do has evolved. I used to have a boss that said, and a good friend who said 90% of success in business is just showing up. And I would sort of go like, yeah, right. I think there's a lot of truth to that. And so when you show up in this community and give and build connectedness that cares about each other's success, it takes things to another level. And that's possible, which is remarkable. And Jim didn't sell that at the beginning. He had some visions of helping take of all boats rise together. And that gets to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point there, that's one of the things that always impressed me about what do I learn? Like, why am I in it, right? And I think we all start with that question, like, why am I in this when it begins, right? And then we start to see, oh my God, like, no, I'm here to actually contribute back. Like the opportunity, like I'm going to talk a little bit about our masterminding that we do once a month, right? But
Yeah.
the guest speakers that have come into that mastermind, I was like, just kind of shaking in my seat going, I get to listen to Brian Tracy?
Yeah, the right?
The
Like
Brian
he's still
Tracy. I'm
around.
like, I never even thought I could get into that, room, right? And it really is about the rooms that we get into, and not just for ourselves, but for the people we get to work with. Like, I get to take that now
Yeah.
and share it with my network, with my clients, with, the people that I interact with. Um, that for me has been a big surprise, right? And a big pleasant surprise of being a member of the, of the crew, of being a volume contributor. Um,
It's
what
one of
have you,
those how the Bridge Code Club contributes back to us. It's an excellent example.
yeah, I wanted to know kind of like, what have you learned now going through this process? Like, you did it early on in volume 6. You've been, an extreme contributor to the mastermind itself, but what have you learned going through the process?
Well, one of the things that I've gotten clarity on, and clarity is, like I said, it's often the missing piece, is a even and I'm a contribution book like Cracking the Rich Code Club is leverageable as a stake in the ground for your brand. The content you put in it, the reason you're there, the fact that you are there, the fact that you're a contributor to the community, it's leverageable. So that's coming from somebody that has his publishing company's name above him, Impact Driven Publishing. We have client authors whose books during brand development, we create the names and the stakes in the ground, and then help direct the creation and the shaping and the outlining and the even sometimes the writing of books for our clients. So I'm in that process deeply. I mentioned to you I was on a client's call right before you and I got in. We're working on chapter 13 of a 13 chapter book, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So it's a wonderful process. Books have a purpose, brands have a purpose, and with forethought and foreplanning, the promotion and the leverageability of being in a cracking the rich code volume is valuable, more valuable than most people think. Many people go like, well, what do I do? It's valuable. It becomes part of brand development, and that's exciting. And so, whether that's creating an event locally to share it with people and videotaping it and then sending it so that it becomes, it has an energy to it.
Mhm.
That's what I do with our clients when they're going to they have a local book launch, and we videotape it and we send it. Sometimes we send it to bookstores. Sometimes we send it to people that, who need a first impression of this expert or author. Yeah, so many powerful things could happen. And so that's the first thing, that the contribution is leverageable as a promotional item, as a first impression management tool for the brand, no matter where the brand is in its life cycle. Um, um, and just like the book is leverageable, the connections with individuals are leverageable.
Mhm.
When we don't just meet, but we connect. It's a difference. Connectedness is the fourth degree of of communication. There's presentation and performance and connectedness and conversation and connectedness. Connectedness is the real thing. When we really connect with each other and caringly exchange things and get to know each other, those relationships become a part of the fabric of who we are and the value we get to share with others. Whether it's saying, I just heard this from Brian Tracy yesterday in a mastermind I was in, and people go like, you were in a mastermind with Brian Tracy, like you said, yeah, and my friend Jim Brett, right? Like, whoa, to you met someone who nobody's ever met, but they created a software that's been taken into Alignable to help people connect faster, cleaner. It's like, really? You wouldn't have known that person before. You wouldn't have known Tom. That was Tom. You wouldn't have known Tom.
Yeah.
But you do now. And you can call Tom, and Tom can call you. It's like, this is a fabric enricher,
Yeah.
and it's leverageable. And I don't mean, using other people. I mean, it's stair steps for your own value.
I agree with that 100%. Like one of the things I noticed too is that when we connect and, just even meeting a person like you, Rich, and being able to connect farther than just pages on a book. And I know that not all collaborations are created equal, right? But from the sounds of it,
That's so true.
First and foremost, it's like you want to put that stake in the ground, like you had mentioned, as a brand, as a, whether you're a thought leader or an entrepreneur or any kind of, I kind of coach this with people who are looking to find jobs. Like you need to have a personal brand on how you want to present yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need a stake in the ground. Now you can do that multiple different ways. There's lots of different collaborations. What I found was really interesting about ours and this group here is that, like, take Mike Weiss, for example, who's a LinkedIn expert. And I was in a breakout session with him, and then he also did a presentation to us about like the impact of LinkedIn. I have now promoted Mike in I don't know how many places. Like he is my go-to person when I hear it's like when I get into my other networks and my other conversations, I always have like this mental Rolodex of problem solvers for other people's problems.
Yeah.
And that is such a good feeling.
One of the things I love about you, Pete, is that you are one of those people that when people say like, I know a guy, you are that guy. It's like, and because you're in this community, you're even more of that guy. So, and we all get to be more of that guy. Any of us who have been networking our entire lives, it is enticing to take such a masterful multiple steps up the ladder of the value of your own fabric, and those whom you know. So
yeah, and I'm a firm believer that your net worth is your network. And I've had this conversation so much lately about networking and the value of the network. And as solopreneurs or as thought leaders, we're always trying to beat an algorithm or be on a Facebook, but that eliminates that true essence of where our value lies. And it's in this networking part. And what I found really comfortable is, there are some networking events where you go to and it's very frustrating, or you're a little intimidated, or you're like, what am I doing here? And I've never found that with our group. With our group, it's always a fresh new face or a fresh new idea. And you lean in with curiosity so much more, because some of the stuff I've heard has been so interesting, right? And even hearing you speak about branding, like branding can be a snore fest, right? Except when I'm talking with Rich about it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's not a snort. It's a labor of love, and it's a process. And people don't nobody teaches it. Even people who sell branding don't teach it. I've been teaching it for a long time, and it's straight talk. It's not jargon. You're not hear me use those words. I'm not going to use them. It's straight talk. Straight talk you can trust, and deep experience you can count on. By the way, to reiterate your point, you're talking about algorithms and so forth. I was on the phone yesterday morning with I will call him a PR guru. I'm not going to mention his name because he's not in Rich Cook Club, but he's a who's who, and he served music stars, people who are rock and roll stars, And I just invited him to speak on my Clarity Summit. And one of his points is get off of email and have lunch. It's like, go meet people. Like, really? And he'll take that to the mat. It's like, stop it. Because, yeah.
No, and I agree with you. Like for me, going for a coffee, like I think I even do all my podcasts, and you see me sipping on my coffee because I want this to be like going for a coffee. I want every engagement I'm in to be a conversation. Like it doesn't have to be, things don't have to be hard. Contributing to things doesn't have to be hard.
Right.
Propelling your message forward should be a joy. And if it's not, then you're probably in the wrong groups or in the wrong circles. And it's really about positioning yourself to be around these like-minded individuals. And that's kind of where, for you beforehand, but when there wasn't the mastermind as an attachment, or, to this, or as an evolution of the book, what was your vision, and how has it kind of come to fruition? And what's
Well,
kind of,
we started playing with it. Jim said, we could interview each other on Zoom and post the interviews. And I'm like, that's great. I want to do interviews. And I did about 8 of them, like right away, with people I never met. I said, who wants to do an interview? And we posted them on the Rich Code Club, website. And we just got right at it to try to take it up to the next level and get to know each other and share the remarkable things about what we know or what we do or life. Yeah. So we were trying a lot of things, and that was one of them. And so we just got going, realizing that what you add is what you get. Why, you said something just a moment ago. The like-minded. Oh yeah. So one of the remarkable in the French, remarquable, noticeable, it really pops out. Not just kind of nice, but literally noticeable things early on in the masterminds. There are many, many of the co-authors who are at that point in their life, in their career, when they break out with others. It's not about them. It's about who they break out with. And they want to hear about you. And they want to go, how can I help you? What do you need? That is such a high value community. And I'm at that point in my life and my career. I love to, I'll say to people, where you come from, Mars? Where'd you come? How'd you become the Pete Beskus that you are today? And I just listen. It's not about me. And that is even faster value add connector. And there are a lot of people that are like that are in the that are co-authors in the Rich Code Club. I mean, if I started naming them, it would take a long time for me to go through that list.
Well, since we've been talking about the club so much, I'm just going to drop a little information for our listeners and our viewers out there. If you are a coach, speaker, or thought leader, and you're looking to create a bigger impact and align yourself with some of the best in the field, like Rich, like Jim Britt, you want to be listening to guys like Brian Tracy, and this is appealing to you. We'd love to invite you to come and be a contributor. We're taking applications for volume 15. You can reach out to me at pete@bestconsulting.com, or look us up on Cracking the Rich Code. Send a message right out to Britt. Jim, he loves to connect with people. He's such a generous person with his time, his attention. So we definitely would love to see you there, especially if you've got something to say and you've got a big idea or a big purpose that you're trying to move. Come join us. Let us help you get that point across. So again, email me. My email address is right there if you're interested in being a contributor in volume 15. This stuff keeps going strong too, Rich. Like when I joined at volume 10, I was like, how fast, like there are so many great people and so many great ideas. This train just keeps on picking up speed, right?
You know what's wonderful? It's like one of those life adages, like attracts like. Jim Britt, like you said, is such a generous, kind, caring person when he looks at another person's life or business, and he's been doing this for a long time. And there's something to say for doing things for a long time.
There is.
I put myself right up there. And thank you, by the way, for mentioning me and Jim Britt in the same sentence. That was good. Yeah. So he this is his vision. And because he is so giving and so generous, because he posts wisdom on LinkedIn, I think almost daily, I mean, regularly, several times a week, he just keeps giving and giving. And he's like that. There's no surprise that this community is filled with like-minded people that he has attracted. So yeah. I think that warrants being said.
I want to ask you, so you've been, because you're also a branding expert, because you're also been involved with this early on, what's a story or a person you've met in this community that has surprised you, where you're like, oh my God, like that is something I've never even thought about before, I've never been exposed to before, or just a person that resonates with you, that sits with you? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here because there's so many great people.
I'll pick a transformation story that would blow anybody's mind. And we all run into brick walls and, or hit barriers, or something happens to us. We have a loss, or, everyone in their life, it's part of the journey. There is a professional in Cracking the Rich Code named Marcia. What is Marcia's last name? Hold on a second. She's a doctor, Madigan. Marcia Madigan, Madigan. Marcia ran medical facilities. She on boards of directors. She was a consultant, and I'm using was because she was a consultant, known worldwide, high level thinker, strategic mind, and a doctor, physician. And she ran hospitals. She was an expert consultant at health facility management, just really thriving in her career, and a wonderful, brilliant mind. And she has an auto accident, and it jars her brain. In the comeback story, she's doing everything she can. She's trying to bring herself back to where she was. And she discovers human design, and it shifts her thinking. And her ability to understand human design and to apply it to people's life, to help people apply it to their, see it and apply it to their, is, there are a lot of people out there who talk about it. She is, and I've met a lot of them, she is the most intuitive and natural that I've ever met. And it's the same Marsha, but it's a different Marsha. It's like she sees her contributions to the world in a very different way. And she put a chapter in Cracking the Rich Code as a part of her moving forward in her next chapter, which at that time was really even evolving. It still is, but she is a world changer in what she knows and how she can contribute to an individual or to on a much broader basis. What's she doing in there? I'm not going to even ask. I just am glad she's there.
Yeah.
But what a story. And there are lots of, we're all in evolution. Look, people evolve, lives evolve, things happen, we grow, we get hurt, we find joy, we go back and find, get ourselves back into the Bible. I mean, it's like whatever, it's like things happen and people evolve, brands evolve. And I'm going to make a point about that people just don't think about. A brand is a perception. Your brand, you're listening to this right now, it's your perception. No, wait a minute. No, it's not. You see, you can tell me all day long what you perceive as your brand. It doesn't matter what you perceive. Your brand is a perception, but it's everybody else's perception. And your challenge in branding is to shape a consistent perception across the board. In order to do that, you've got to do certain things. People don't think that, they don't realize that. But we all evolve and brands evolve. Why? Because the world evolves, technology evolves, competition evolves, the people who work for you evolve. All those things like Michael Porter put in his, competitive advantage book from Harvard, 3 decades ago. It's like any of those change, it changes the nature of your brand. Brands evolve and we all evolve as people. So when you have a higher level community like the Rich Code Club, you evolve to be even more of a world changer than you were when you came in.
I love that evolution, and you make it so easy to ask the next question, Rich, because really I was going to ask in the vein of evolution. You wrote way back in volume 6 when there was only about 100 contributors, and now we're well over 250 contributors to this club, right? To this group, to the messaging. What would you write about today in your next chapter?
Excellent. I would write a chapter called Impacting Humanity, Stories of Impact-Driven Brands. Because people don't, they think about branding so mundanely and incorrectly because the world tricks us about what branding is and people just don't know. But literally what an individual does in their life to touch other people's lives, no matter what it is, touches the fabric of humanity. And when an individual is driven by impact, in other words, the reason they do what they do is to make the impact on others that they know they can. That's an impact-driven individual. It's not about the money. Money will come. Money comes. As a matter of fact, when they define in language their brand and everything aligns, the money comes faster. But that sounded like an advertisement. But seriously, lifting up stories where people chose to be clear about the impacts they really want to make. When that clarity occurs, the impacts occur more quickly. And there are millions of entrepreneurs, and that's who this book is for. It's for people who are entrepreneurs and they want to contribute to the book, and it's for people who are entrepreneurs who want to read the book. There are millions and more every year of deeply experienced entrepreneurs, professionals, solopreneurs, people who own companies, they know there's more. They know they can take it to a higher level. They're not done. But they don't, the gate to the next level is kind of feels locked, and they don't know how to take that, their brand, their identity, to that next level. I'd love to tell stories of the putting clarity as a foundation and watching impact driven people make impacts on the world they've defined. The clarity is the missing piece. And I see that happening all over the world. I see it happening to millions. Imagine if millions of entrepreneurs got more clarity and their work felt like love and they chose to do it for more decades. What kind of a world does that create? That's why I do what I do. That's what I'd write about.
That's what I want to read about. Like, honest to God, I think a lot of people, they see the title and they're like, oh, another book about getting rich, right? And that's the one thing that for me has been so impactful. It's like, no, when you open these books, you're not reading about making more money, right? And I think that's where we evolve to that next level of what kind of brand are you? What kind of identity do you have? Who are you serving in this world? It's like when we're younger, yeah, it's about, I want to make money. And then you realize, like you said, I can't break through this ceiling because I think that money target holds us back. And what I've learned through reading different chapters and through interviewing different people and just being part of this is that, oh no, it's the ideas, it's the stories, it's that comeback story that you said about Martha. It's, this, I want to hear about your impact driven branding stories, right? Like, I heard you say that you were just telling that I was lost in your words and kind of saying, well, tell me more. I want to, when's that coming out?
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's a reality. It really is amazing.
Yeah. So I want to honor your time because I know we've got a time commitment here, but I want to appreciate you from the bottom of my heart for being such a valued contributor to our mastermind, to the Rich Code. With what's one thing that I didn't bring up that you would like, a message that you'd like to get across, or something that you're working on, something that you're passionate about right now?
Well, one of the things I'm really passionate about is the event we've created called the Clarity Summit, and it occurs twice a year. We interview, now it's 27 world-class experts. So the title of it is The Clarity Summit, World-Class Experts Guide Your Success. And when it's live and it's ready for the next Clarity Summit, it's always at theclaritysummit.com. Jim is one of our contributors. He's actually leading off the next one. It's such a diverse group of people who, from their own unique journey, can speak a golden nugget or two that if you pay attention and apply them can move your business or your life forward. And that's how I choose whom I interview. So that's something I'm excited about. And I'll leave everybody with a word of wisdom. I mean, I deal in this world of using communication to shape a consistent perception that is your brand. Here's the word of wisdom. Speak from your heart. That's it.
That's it.
Don't get caught up in thinking you have to be something you're not, or that your brand is something that needs to have bling or get slapped on you, or be, you have to wear a superhero costume. And I've seen it all. It's disingenuous, and it takes you off your own track. We've all been made by the same creator with gifts. Your gifts are yours. Speak from your heart.
I love that, Rich. And thank you again so much for being my first interviewer on the Cracking the Rich Code podcast. And again, for all of our listeners, if you are interested, Volume 15, we are taking applicants. Email me at pete@beskusconsulting.com to find out more, or go to Cracking the Rich Code and look us up. So until next week, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.